Hi, and welcome to Vote 2018 Santa Monica City Council candidates. I'm Sandy Jacobson, your moderator for this forum. Election day is almost here, and this forum will give you an excellent opportunity to size up 6 of the 7 candidates for 3 open seats on the Santa Monica City Council. The individuals you elect will serve 4-year terms of office beginning in December 2018. This forum is being brought to you by the League of Women Voters of Santa Monica Education Fund in partnership with Santa Monica City TV. The League is a nonpartisan, nonprofit organization and never supports or opposes candidates for public office. This is one of 4 30-minute City Council candidate forums, each focusing on a different set of issues. The focus of this forum is community. We wish to thank community members who took the time to send in their thoughtful and important questions. We'll now turn to our City Council candidates. In alphabetical order, they are Scott Bellomo, Sue Himmelrich, Kevin McKeown, Greg Morena, Pam O'Connor, Ashley Powell. Each candidate will have the opportunity to answer a variety of questions with a maximum of 1 minute for each response. Questions will be asked of the candidates in random order according to a blind matrix created by the League of Women Voters of Santa Monica Education Fund. So let's turn to the first round. Santa Monica is recognized, among other things, for the remarkable working relationship between the city, the school district, and the community college district. So the question is, how do you envision the relationship between the city and the school district in the future? What about this relationship would you like to change, and what would you like to continue? All 7 candidates will answer this question. We'll lead off with you, Pam O'Connor.
Well, the city has had a strong relationship with the school district and with our community college, Santa Monica Community College, and that needs to continue. It's important that the institutions that underlie the city continue to work together. We've had some great successes working together. The city helps to provide funding for the schools, at least $25 million a year. The community has passed the measure to provide more funding that would go to the schools, the public schools. And also working with the Santa Monica College is important, and joint facilities, using and leveraging the funding that we all each have for capital programs to see how can we build those projects together. But also part of this community building of those institutions, it goes beyond that. It also includes our private schools, supporting them, working with our libraries and making sure that we have the strong library system so that all the institutions can work together and have places for learning.
Thank you, Pam. Kevin, please.
Well, Sandy, I just in June retired from a 25-year career working for the Santa Monica Malibu Unified School District in our public schools, helping teachers and students with computer technology, which was an importantly evolving part of education over those years. And I've been on the city council for 20 years, so I've stood with one foot in both territories for some time. And I really don't think of them as separate territories anymore. Education is absolutely essential to democracy. The money that we spend on education isn't being spent, it's being invested. And these are the people who will be the future Santa Monicans who will bring this city to ever greater heights. We also then have the opportunity in Santa Monica, because we have a wonderful community college, to provide the next step in education. And SMC is the highest ranking transfer college in the state of California. So we're blessed to have a wonderful education community. And I think that the city, the college, and the school district will become even closer partners as we go forward.
Thank you, Kevin. Sue Himmelrich.
So we just had the Jewish high holidays, and in those high holidays there's a prayer that says, what would your choice be if you never had another child laughing? And it's one of my favorites, and I think the choice is clear. This is a community that's always valued its schools, its college, and we do so because we are a community. And I have been determined to fight the forces of gentrification that are turning us into a community that is the playground of the 1%, because that is what I'm afraid we will become if we don't continue to have great schools, a great college, and great services for everybody who lives here. So the community part of being Santa Monica is what Santa Monica is, and it won't exist if it isn't a community.
Thank you, Sue. Greg?
Well, I love what Kevin said. A dollar is not spent, it's invested into our education. And he couldn't have said it better. You know, I'm a product of our public schools, Grant, John Adams, and Samo High. The new school bond that's coming out, which is really important, more than half of the money that we're going to raise for that is going to go into Samo High, which is where most of our kids go to school. It's incredibly important that we as the City Council stand with our school board and support measures like SMS, but also to get into the Master Facilities Agreement, to get into our measures. The $25 million that the City Council has used to support the school system is more than a fifth of its budget. That's an incredible, innovative solution. I believe that every city should support its public school system. This is something that we should carry out through the nation and continue to invest in our education.
Thank you. Scott?
Thank you. My son has been in Santa Monica since K through, he's in 11th now. I don't think there's anybody in the city that doesn't agree that education is critical to the success of the city. I do have concerns over certain, with the bond issue not being specific and it more being a blank check that's going to be written and that funds are going to be allocated later. I would rather know that information ahead of time. The other thing that concerns me is that SMC, which gets a lot of funding, only 4% of our student population ends up going to SMC. In addition, there's some times when I feel like the funds aren't being, the funds that we as residents are happy to provide are being misused. Case in point is that we don't have a field being built at the Civic Center, but we have a child development center for children, not at Santa Monica children, unless there's a space available in some type of lottery system at the end. So obviously we want to spend our money. I really want to focus on that money being for the residents and the children of the residents.
Thank you, Scott. Ashley?
I believe that Santa Monica is an incredible community, and I think that an affordable education should be a right, not a privilege. And I've always been interested in the cradle to career path. I am definitely supporting Measure SMS. And I grew up going to school in Santa Monica and being a Head Start volunteer. I'm a big proponent for public education, and I am a product of Santa Monica College. I finished my freshman year at Santa Monica College and I transferred to Occidental College. And I'm very proud of the year that I spent at Santa Monica because I really feel that I got a great experience. I had great classes and professors, and I even still see some of my professors around town.
Thank you, Ashley. Okay, so for the next round, each candidate will answer a different question, but remember that you will all get to pick a question from this round. Got it? So take notes. All right, Sue. There is a large gap between families who qualify for deed-restricted affordable housing and those who can afford current market rate. So the question is, how can we keep those families in our community and our schools?
And when you say those families, you mean the ones in deed-restricted housing?
The difference between the deed-restricted housing, there's a gap between the people who can qualify for the deed-restricted affordable housing and those who can afford the current market rate. There's a gap in there. How can we keep these families in our community and in our schools?
Thank you. And I do have an idea that revolves around the issues of rent control and affordable housing, because I believe that if we can repeal Costa-Hawkins by passing Proposition 10 in this next election and therefore regain control over what happens to units when they become vacant, because right now when units become vacant they go to market. The landlord can charge as much as they want. And I think that there is a deal to be made with the 7,000 units of housing in Santa Monica that have never been vacancy decontrolled and are still affordable at various levels along the spectrum. So if we in fact took those units and made them deed restricted and means tested, that would be a pool of affordable housing unlike any we have ever seen in the city of Santa Monica. So I think that there is a way to do it, and that's why we need to pass Prop 10.
Thank you, Sue. So Pam, the Master Facilities Use Agreement between the city and the school district, first established in 2004, is approaching the end of its term. Would you support extending this agreement, which generates approximately $9 million per year for our public schools? Would you suggest any modifications?
I absolutely support moving forward in continuing to work with the school district on the master facilities agreement. That is the best way that we as government can leverage the limited funds we have, because even though we put good dollar amounts into public education, even though we raise them through our community, it still is a limited resource. So we need to figure out how can we best use those. Now, it's always worth taking a pause, looking at the elements of the agreement, figure out what's working, what might need to be adjusted. So perhaps there is some tweaking, but that would be, I think, a wise process to go through. But basically, let's continue with this partnership. It has served our community well. It has served served a generation of children and youth, and will continue to serve more if we can move forward.
Thank you, Pam. Ashley, the city is currently considering a parks master plan, Memorial Park, and redevelopment, and contemplating airport park growth. What features would you deem most important in this planning to best serve our children, youth, and families?
Children, youth, and families are my priority, and I do believe that Santa Monica should be a model for both our county and for our state and for our nation. And I support building more parks, and I definitely support the use of the airport into becoming a park, because we do need more shared spaces. But in addition to building more parks, we need to build more affordable housing, because we're just going to continue to have a homelessness crisis of people living in our parks if we don't also build more affordable housing. So we need to do both.
Thank you, Ashley. Kevin, how would you support the county's Cultural Equity and Inclusion Initiative, which is aimed at increasing representation, diversity, and access to the arts for all people? How can we be sure our diverse families with children of all ages are included?
We have a plan that we actually adopted now 10 years ago called Cultural Capital, Creative Capital. And that plan has not been fully implemented in Santa Monica, although it was very carefully thought through and very strongly supported by the community and the city council. So I think we already have a blueprint in place. We know what sorts of things can be done in Santa Monica, given the funding and given the will. Unfortunately, we adopted the Creative Capital just as the biggest recession since the Great Depression hit Santa Monica and the country. I think we need to go back to Creative Capital, look at the ideas we had then, decide which of them can now be implemented as funds become available, and think about what we might do that we didn't think of 10 years ago. Arts are incredibly important to a community. They bring people together. We have lots of things in our society that motivate people. The arts inspire people, and I think we need to be inspired as well as motivated.
Thank you, Kevin. Scott, what do you believe is the greatest local challenge facing the new generation of Santa Monica residents moving here today? What could you do as a city council member to help us address that challenge?
So that kind of dovetails with one of the other questions, which is what are we doing for the people kind of in between? I think the biggest issue is a family of four could never, unless you make a certain amount of money, you cannot afford to move to Santa Monica and raise kids. I think that the challenge is to figure out a solution that motivates and incentivizes landlords and property owners to build and to maintain units in Santa Monica that at the same time are affordable. And again, affordable is such a weird term, because as a resident who's lived here 30 years, I don't even know what that means. I live in Santa Monica. I can't afford to live here. And I work full time. I have one income. as a city council member, I would try to find the solution where we're still incentivizing individual landlords to provide solutions, to provide rentals that could actually support a family, not a one unit or a single, like a bachelor unit.
Thank you, Scott. Greg, what will you do as a city council member to increase participation in local government by young Santa Monica residents who are currently underrepresented in discussions about the city's future? Be specific.
All right. Specific as my neighbors? Specific? I feel very strongly about this. It's incredibly important that we're at the table. My wife and I are raising 2 young children in town, and we both work, and it's really hard. But I am here to represent my demographic. I've lived here my whole life, and you wonder how things happen, and by the time you think you have time to get involved or you have some extra space to get onto a board or a commission, sometimes it's too late, right? And by the time you're actually making policy and helping people, you've lost the opportunity to affect change on yourself, on your neighbor. So it's incredibly important that I get my friends, to get all of the people who I have had such wonderful opportunity to meet, to get all of them involved. I think a lot of it involves social media. I think a lot of it involves new strategies to bring everybody into the fold as soon as possible, how we know.
Thank you. All right, so now you each have the opportunity to answer a question of your choice from the previous round. Make sure it's not a question that you were already asked. Ashley, let's lead off with you.
Well, I was really excited when Greg got this question because I'm obviously a millennial young woman running for office, and I decided to run. I knew I was going to run a long time ago, but I decided to run in this election because I wanted to be the millennial voice for change, and I wanted to be the youngest woman running for office this time around, and to really get my young friends involved in politics in Santa Monica and in commissions. And I think there's a lot of questioning why I'm doing this without ever having been on a commission, but I'm involved with several nonprofit boards and a lot of local advocacy, and I feel that I have the experience to do this, and that's why I hope to get elected.
Thank you, Ashley. Greg.
All right, the question that I like most, besides the one that I got, because I think it was great, was the local challenge. What is our greatest local challenge, and what can we do to help solve it? Communication clearly is one of our challenges. There's many different demographics that we need to reach, and I think we can do that with innovative strategies, updated strategies. But one of the things that we need to communicate that is critically important is housing. We don't have a viable solution. Prop 10 is our closest bet to get us to where we need to get. We have to provide affordable housing. We have to provide workforce housing. This is going to be the way that we reduce the cars into our city. This is going to be the way that young families can grow up. This is going to be the way that we preserve our diversity, not just with the POD program, but our actual social diversity. This is the solution. We need to push on it. We need to accelerate building affordable housing, and that will be the solution.
Thank you, Greg. Sue.
Well, I would like to talk about the diverse families of all ages and ensuring that they're included in the arts, and not only in the arts, but in every part of life in Santa Monica. What has happened in the last week in this country is a threat to our ability to do this, because our federal government is talking about cutting funding to people who were not born in this country, and basically threatening the lives of children and families who already don't have enough to eat, who already are living at the poverty line, and who may not be able to access SNAP, our food benefits program, who may not be able to access CalWORKs or Medicaid, Medi-Cal. And I think that it is our job as a community to step in for the folks in our community who will be deprived of those important benefits, and I hope we do so.
Thank you, Sue. Kevin.
The question I wasn't asked that I'm most passionate about, Sandy, is how to involve young people in the governance of this community that they're part of, and to get them to help us shape the future, which is going to be their future. Part of the problem is the nature of government, the way it's set up. We're asking 21st century youth to participate in a 19th century process where people come down to a meeting and speak out. Town halls are wonderful. I come from New England, but it's just not the way people communicate in the 21st century. Now, we've done some work with apps and smartphones, but mostly we've enabled people to file complaints about potholes or there being an electric scooter lying somewhere or a leaf blower. We haven't really engaged people electronically to the extent that I hope we can in the future. This is a very innovative community. We are Silicon Beach. We have 22,000 tech jobs. Those young people should be involved in our government and involved in helping us bring others of their generation into our government. And I will feel, as an aging boomer, that I have failed if I don't manage to do that before I leave office.
Thank you, Scott. I mean, Kevin. Scott, it's your turn. Sorry, I was ahead of myself.
I'll speak to the Parks Master Plan. So as far as the airport goes, that should be a park. Fourth in Arizona, that should be a park. My concern is this. I was online looking at a video from Tongva Park when it first opened. Had families. It was nighttime. There were all these really cool art exhibits and dancers, and it was the way I imagined a park in Santa Monica should look. Unfortunately, that's not the way it looks, and it's primarily due to crime and homelessness. And I think if we're going to put parks in place, we have to be aware that if we build parks under the current Ninth Circuit ruling, they're going to become locations that are going to be encampments. So I would suggest, and I would advocate for police substations at every new park that we put in the city, so that at least we're communicating out to everybody there that this is a safe place for you and your family and your children.
Thank you. Pam?
And I'll also go with the Parks Master Plan. The city embarked on a master planning process for parks in the mid-1990s. And building on that roadmap, new parks have been built over the last 20 years, including Tongva Park. Improvements to parks have been made, and some wonderful playgrounds, including universal playgrounds for children, have been built throughout the city. But we've reached the end of that path forward. It's 20-some years, so now we need to embark on a new master plan, one that envisions the airport as a park and looks at what are the other opportunities to grow our open space. We also need to work on making sure that we have the funds to maintain those open spaces. Right now, we may have the homeless problem issue with people using that space, but that's an operational issue. We need to get that master plan in place. We need to find the funds to build and grow our open space. This is where the convergence of culture, the convergence of community comes together with people meeting in the parks.
Thank you, Pam. So that concludes our City Council 2018 Candidates Forum discussing community. At this time, we'd like to thank our candidates on behalf of the League of Women Voters of Santa Monica Education Fund. In partnership with City TV, we want to thank all of you for taking part in this 4-part Candidates Forum and for stepping forward to run for office. This forum will be replayed multiple times on Santa Monica TV, City TV, Channel 16, and on cable channel 99, which is airing election programming 24 hours a day, 7 days a week until Election Day. All forums are also available on demand at smvote.org. For more information on both local and state election, check out Voters Edge at votersedge.org. We also want to thank you, the audience, for your interest. It takes all of us to make democracy work. Remember, cast your vote by mail ballots or go to the polls and vote on November 6th. Elections are won by those who vote. Thank you.